I don't feel so. This is amazing.
Okay. All right, well, welcome everyone in person and on Zoom. Looks like we have a nice crowd with us joining virtually. My name is Rusty Carpenter, and I'm pleased to be joined by Carrie Foster. This session was derived out of a really great conversation between Senate and the Office of Development, with the goal of bringing more information to faculty focused on our foundation scholarships. So we're looking forward to a great conversation today and are so pleased to have Carrie with us to help us learn about the processes and the timeline for foundation scholarships, along with other great content. So welcome, Carrie.
Thank you, Rusty. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And thank you again, Rusty, for hosting this in this beautiful space. Come to the library. Dean George is here. So, there's lots of great spaces in the library. I'm a big fan of the library. So I always encourage people to come here. So my name is Carrie Foster. I'm Assistant Director of Fund Administration in the Office of Development. I've been in this position for 2 years, a little over 2 years, and I really have a passion for what I do with the foundation and development. And so I hope to impart some of my passion on to you all and get you all excited about what we do with foundation scholarships. So what is a foundation scholarship? That's a good question. A foundation scholarship is not scholarship money that is funded by the university. It is donor funded. So a donor sees a need for scholarship money for students. They want to help, so they establish a scholarship. But it's not just left to people that give big dollar amounts. Anyone that gives any money to our foundation scholarships is a donor, and every dollar helps, and it helps students. And that's what we're here for, and that's what we hope to achieve by making college more affordable for students, because they have a huge impact on students to help them afford college, to even come to college for some students, because it wouldn't even be a reality for some students if it was not for foundation scholarships. So you may have heard the terms MOA, MOU. So you're like, MOA, MOU, MO what? What exactly does this mean? How are foundation scholarships started? So MOA, it's a gift agreement. MOA stands for Memorandum of Agreement. MOU is for Memorandum of Understanding. So generally, the MOA is for outside donors. MOUs are internally funded funds. So they're all gift agreements. So when we start a scholarship, we have a wonderful team of development officers over in the development office, and they will meet with our donors. A donor says, they have something that they want to start a scholarship or a fund, but we're focusing on scholarships today. So they will get together and meet, and they talk about first the purpose. What is it they want to achieve with the scholarship that they are starting? Second, how much do they want to give? So an endowed scholarship has to be at least $25,000 for it to be endowed. And we'll go into that a little bit more. But the donor decides how much they are able to give or want to give. After that, they determine the criteria. Do they want it to go to students from a certain area, a certain major or college, certain GPA? There are many different criteria. We try to keep it as basic as possible. That's how we want to guide the donors, so that it's not difficult to award the scholarship and so that more students can be impacted by the scholarships. So that's another discussion that our development officers have with the donors. So endowed versus non-endowed. So if a fund is endowed, it is invested within the foundation. And so every year it draws investment income. And of course, that varies by how much is invested, how much is put in. Non-endowed is not invested. So you can still keep giving money to it, but if the money is gone, there's nothing to give. So that is the difference between endowed and non-endowed. So how do I know how much I can award if I'm going to select to award these scholarships? So the first thing is every year, last week, around this time, last week is when I got it, I get a spending report from the finance office. And it tells me how much each endowed fund has earned in investment income. So then I go in and I look at the current balance of the fund, add on what's going to be added July 1 from investment income, total them together, and I'll send a report to each budget manager that shows that. That way they know how much they have available to spend in scholarships for the upcoming academic year. Slate, you can go into Slate if you have that access as a budget manager or authorized user, and it will show the balance of the fund in there. So that's another useful tool for how to see how much money is in a scholarship. Ask me. You know, I'm always available. You can email, you can call, not after hours, please, but you can always ask me. I'm always willing to help because sometimes you don't see what is encumbered. So sometimes like the spring scholarships haven't been awarded yet. So it's showing more than what is actually available. So this is the big part. Let's find recipients. Let's find some students that we can give scholarships to. And how are we going to do that? So, does this look familiar to anyone? So the TV show Let's Make a Deal with Monty Hall or Wayne Brady, whichever one you like, at the end of the show, the host would go out in the audience and say, okay, I will give you $100 to the first person that can show me a baby bib. You know, and everybody's like scrambling. They got everything. They're like Julie that came in here and was pulling all sorts of stuff out of her pockets when she got here, you know, and then whoever was the first one to get it would get the prize. So let's play. I have an EKU trucker hat for whoever can give me first a Post-it note. Anybody got a Post-it note? All right, I see some people digging. Oh, Mary Beth, she's got the Post-it note. She gets the hat. All right, good job, Mary Beth. Oh, well, you can give it to someone else. She's just competitive, you know? She knows where those are stored and she can get one at any time that she wants to, but she's just that competitive. So, all right. So scholarships, foundation scholarships are kind of the same way. So we say, all right, if you're a student from Floyd County with a 2.5 GPA majoring in business, we've got a scholarship for you. So that's what we want to do. We want to match those students with our foundation scholarships. But how can you make an informed decision? So when you go into Slate, if you have that access, one of the things you can see when you pull up, as you see here, the scholarships that you have. So here I've got the Eastern Kentucky University Central Region Scholarship. It shows the balance, as I mentioned earlier. You can see it in there. The college, a thank you requirement. And then if you hover over that neat little icon under MOA, it's going to bring up a box that tells you exactly what criteria is for that scholarship. It should also tell if there's a dollar amount, because there are some scholarships that say you could only award X amount in a given year. So you want to look at this when you're making your selections to make sure you are picking the correct student to go with a scholarship. Now, on into that, when you start to decide to award, you can go in and insulate, and I do trainings on this. If you ever want one, reach out to me. It will give you the list of applicants for the scholarship. You can click on the student. It will tell you their basic information, where they're from, their GPA, their major, their estimated family contribution, to determine financial need. You can even go in further and read the essay that they have written for their foundation application and any letters of recommendation that they may have attached to that. So that helps you to make informed decisions when you are selecting scholarship recipients. And again, you can always ask me. I have people message me all the time and say, hey, I have the student that I think I'd like to give this scholarship to. Do they qualify? And I'm happy to check and look and make sure that they do. So, best practices. There are always best practices in any situation and also when awarding scholarships. So, of course, it goes without saying, as we just touched on previously, is that you want to make sure the student matches the criteria. That's first and foremost. But also other things you want to do. Timeliness. I cannot stress enough how important it is to award scholarships on time, because there are students that make decisions if they're a new student, where they're going to go to school based on how much it is going to cost them, and also if they can come back to school if it's a continuing student. So we really like to have as many scholarship offers made before school ends for the semester in the spring. So, they can know for the fall if they're able to come back or not, and to make those decisions. Another thing I like everyone to do is to look at the overall picture to maximize impact. So, it's so easy to just say, okay, this student has a 4.0, let's give them a scholarship. And certainly those students are worthy of scholarships. But we have to look at every student. And as faculty, you all know your students. So you might see a student that maybe is struggling. They might have a 2.8 GPA, and, which would they might get overlooked. However, we have scholarships for students like that. And that student might be working 2 jobs to be able to afford school. And if they got a scholarship, then they might be able to quit a job, and then they can focus on their studies more. So, like I said, we have so many different scholarships available, different, criteria. So there's one scholarship that we have, and the donor, when creating the scholarship, she was not a good student when she was in college, and she owns up to that. So she has created a scholarship that is for students that do not qualify for merit scholarships. So she wants to help those students that might need a little extra help, a little more encouragement to come to college. A lot of times, if a student doesn't have the best GPA, it might be because their family doesn't have the financial means, really to help them. And so that is a big boost for them to be able to come to school. So you want to look overall. You don't want to just pinpoint the students that are always the best and, maybe have everything going for them, because there are so many other students that are very much impacted by foundation scholarships that you might not think about. Mum's the word. So I cannot emphasize this enough. When you're awarding scholarships, and I know it gives you warm, fuzzy feelings to say to a student, you're getting this scholarship, but it's best to not say anything until we know for sure, because there are always things. Sometimes you overlook a criteria. Maybe they don't have room in their financial aid package to receive a scholarship, and then that's disappointing, you know? Who would want to be told, oh, I'm gonna give you $1,500 and then say, oh, never mind, I can't do that. So it's best to not say anything. Once an award is given, they get an email that says you're getting this scholarship. And, you know, I know it's fun to be able to tell them, but sometimes that's not the best choice to do. We don't want to get anybody's hopes up and then dash them. All right. Invite me to your committee meetings. So if your scholarship committee is getting together to make selections, I'm happy to come and sit with you. And as you have questions about students or criteria or available funds, I'm happy to be there to help you as you make those decisions. You know, you don't have to make them on your own and then wait for the whole process of going through the awarding. And, you know, or if that doesn't work out and you have a list of students that are potential recipients, you can email those to me and I'm happy to vet those for you as well. All right. Now, how in the world can we give scholarships if no one applies for them? So I want to encourage you all to encourage your students to apply for our foundation scholarships. So does anybody know what our current enrollment is? Approximate. Around 15,000, yes. So for the 24-25 academic year, how many of those 15,000 students do you think applied for foundation scholarships? 1,780. That is a small drop in the bucket. So a lot of students don't know about foundation scholarships. Some of them think, you know, going back to what we talked about with the overall picture, some of them were like, well, I could never get a scholarship. I don't have a 4.0 GPA, you know, but again, we have all sorts of scholarships available, so they don't even bother. And, you know, then, you know, you got the ones that are just lazy too, and you can't do anything about that. But, you know, so talk about scholarships. You can talk about scholarships in your classes. When you're advising your students, that's a great opportunity to promote foundation scholarships to them. Share the link. So here's the link up on the screen and a QR code that will take them to the foundation scholarship application. I have some flyers you can take with you to put up in your office or on the floor of your, you know, where your office is and your classes, and just share with them about foundation scholarships. If you ever want me to come talk to students about foundation scholarships, I will do that. You might have noticed a theme here. I'm like, ask me, you know, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about it. A couple years ago for Giving Day, a faculty member did have me come talk to his class about foundation scholarships. And so not long after I left, the faculty member, he texted me and he said, I need to talk to you. And so I called him and he said that afterward, one of the students came up to him and said, I never realized how important foundation scholarships are. He said, and it gives me cold chills, he said, I have $50 in my bank account and I want to give it. So, I mean, talk about them. Students can make a big difference too. They see the value in it. And then that also helps them as they get older to see the value in giving back as well. So please, please, please share about foundation scholarships. You know, I know we have almost 600 foundation scholarships. And, you know, there's something for just about everyone. And we'd love to get that money out. You know, it's sad to see it just sitting there, you know, and we're doing a lot better. Everyone's doing a lot better about getting the money awarded. And I would just like to see it awarded even more, see more students excited about applying and and getting out there and promoting scholarships. Any questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Please.
My question is about the timeline.
Uh-huh.
So what's the timeline if I'm talking to a student for right now? Like, I get confused about when the windows are open and when they're not open.
Yes, so the foundation scholarship application opened in December for the 25-26 academic year.
Okay.
So it is open now. The sooner they apply, the more likely they are to get selected. You know, probably in next month is when a lot of scholarship committees will start meeting to make their selections. You know, we do ask the preferred award time would be by May 15th. So, but we still award some after that. We're trying to set, you know, a little more stringent guidelines on that so that, you know, it's just easier, not just kind of scholarships given all willy-nilly all year.
So if my committee meets and we select someone next week,
Uh-huh.
would that student know, or is there a timeline where all students learn at the same time?
No, so as soon as they're offered, so what happens once the recipient is selected and it's entered in, I will go and just double check to make sure that the student does meet all of the criteria and that there is enough money in the fund of how much you want to award. And then it goes to the scholarship office, and then they look and make sure the financial aid package is, you know, all good, which right now they would have to look at the current year. Financial aid packaging isn't ready for next year yet, but you know, it usually stays the same. And then as soon as that's done, the student gets an email saying that they're receiving it. Yeah. Anything else?
Don't have any questions right now in the chat.
Do you know how many of because I think you said 1,700 applied, how many we awarded out of the 17?
Oh my goodness, that was one
Sorry.
thing I did not come up with. I'm thinking we awarded, if I remember the last time I checked, I'm thinking we awarded a little over 2,000. Does that sound right? Yeah. So, you know, some scholarships have multiple recipients. So, and we awarded over 1 million, almost 2 million in foundation scholarships. So that's huge. That can be transformative for a student. Yes, Lisa.
Multiple questions before. You mentioned that, oh, thank you for the box. You mentioned that in Slate, we'll be able to see all the applicants. But I know I've asked you about this before, and you said that if a student qualifies, but they didn't apply, we might still be able to nominate them.
Yes.
How can we see who is eligible, even if they did not officially apply?
Great question. So yes, so when you go in, if you click on your applicants in Slate and there's either no one there, which has happened since we've had so few students apply, and you know someone, you can nominate them, or there's also with the 25-26 portal, a button that's eligible students, and you can click on that and it will show you. So what happens, just the scholarship process on the student side is the student fills out the application, and it's one application for all of the foundation scholarships. So most of the information for the application is pulled from Banner, you know, like their major, their GPA, and that type of thing. And so when they fill out that application, then Slate goes in and matches their information with all the criteria in Slate for each scholarship and pulls, you know, who is eligible for what scholarship.
Some of our scholarships don't, in fact, probably most of them don't say how much to give. And I know that we talked about how the, we get a spreadsheet, or the chair gets a spreadsheet that shows the spendable amount. But how do we decide how much to give out? I know Mary Beth has said, try to give out all or most of the spendable, right?
Yes.
So that means it may vary from year to year, how much we.
Yes, it could, because exactly, because for one thing, there are some scholarships that have sat untouched for many years, so they have a huge balance. So, we can work to get those down, and then it can vary year to year of how much investment income a scholarship earns. Usually, the foundation every year since I've been here approves at 3.25%. And so therefore the investment income each year pretty much is close to the same every year. So yeah, it can vary year to year of how much it is you want to give. I do recommend, giving as much as you can. I know, it's like, okay, I don't want, the money's not gonna just disappear. It's not doing anybody any good sitting there in the spendable account. So, if you're trying to just squirrel away for a rainy day, the rainy day is now for a lot of students. So, be generous and, think about what's going to really make a difference for a student, $100 or $1,000. And, there might be enough that you could see, oh, we could give 2 students a scholarship and help out 2 students. So I'm all about being generous. Of course, it's not my money, so it's easy to say, spend it, but we want to make a difference to the students. And again, it's not doing any good sitting there, because the money in the spendable does not draw investment income. It's just sitting there.
Okay, sorry, I have just a couple more. And this one is at least partially for the sake of others, because I sort of, at least in my department, I think I know which ones are which. But when you get the spreadsheet, I think it just gives the spendable amount. How do people know, hey, this one has a principal or corpus sitting over here that's going to draw more, but this one, this is all it is. It's not endowed. There's no more money besides this.
Well, so one clue, it doesn't tell the exact amount, but on the spreadsheet, there's a column that's the current and then what is going to be earned. So if it's a 0, it's non-endowed.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, so that balance is what's there. And there's not going to be any more unless people give to that fund.
Okay. And I know that now, when we give out scholarships, students are not getting any, I don't know, refunds, so to speak. So like if they've got their tuition covered and they get one of these scholarships, it just it just kind of replaces part of, say, their merit scholarship. So if say I've got 2 students and, they look, about the same in terms of merit. Ideally, I'd like to help the one who actually needs the money, but what if financial need is not one of the criteria for the scholarships? I want to maximize helping students, but I want to make sure that, we're doing the right thing and following the rules.
Okay, so, that's one thing that, the few scholarships that we have that don't have financial need as a criteria, I love those, because there are students that are in middle income families that don't qualify for all the Pell Grants and all of that. And it's expensive to go to college. So those scholarships really help them. Now, one thing I want to tell you is, as far as the merit part, if this is a departmental scholarship that your committee is selecting, that will not go toward merit. We have a team that makes those decisions. It's not through the development office, so we don't make those decisions on merit and things like that. But all they do is they send me who they want to use, what scholarship in the student, and I tell them, yeah, they qualify or not. So if your committee makes a student selection that foundation scholarship is not going to go toward their merit. However, if they don't have enough in their financial aid package, no, they're not going to get a refund. They can apply what is available of the scholarship, or they might say, well, there's no more room in their budget. But yeah, does that answer your question?
It's awarded to the student,
Yes.
and so it really just goes to the bottom line. So it might minus or deduct the amount of the merit scholarship.
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
No, no, only if it is the merit. So we've just hired someone to be a compliance analyst, and they're going to deal solely with merit. So they are going to go in and try to find students, and if they need foundation dollars to supplant towards their merit, they're going to do that. But if it is your scholarship in your department and you are making that selection, none of that will go towards merit.
What happens then if they don't have any room in their financial
Yes.
aid?
They just won't be able to qualify for the scholarship.
Like, what if I'm awarding 2,500, they only have 1,000? Does that mean that I'm only gonna spend 1,000?
Yes.
Okay, that's. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, it will award up to what they have left of unmet need. And
If I asked you
Mm-hmm.
what students unmet, or I don't know, I don't look at slate often enough to understand. So if I asked you what's their unmet need, because I don't want to award it to someone, I think that's what you were getting at,
Yes.
Lisa, that
Yes.
it's gonna not do anything.
right, so I don't know that either.
Oh.
So you can ask me and I get with the scholarship office and we figure out what someone's unmet need is. So yeah, I don't have access to that either. So yeah, don't feel like you don't understand something because I don't have it either. Yeah.
Like I wish I hadn't seen.
Right.
But that would be part of that confirmation process
Yes.
as well?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
So that could be why I think I'm spending everything in there. And then when I look back, it's not.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
So
Because
I think that that's my fault, but apparently it's not.
no, and
Okay.
so much of that is. You messed up, Julie. No, that is more of a back end thing. And, sometimes too, when I check with the scholarship office and they're like, oh yeah, they had this much unmet need, that does change sometimes, something else might come up and then on down the line, they're like, oops, we're gonna have to reduce this scholarship, so.
Carrie, we have 2 questions
Okay.
in the Zoom chat, so we'll go in order. This one is coming from Molly. And the question is, in Slate, on the Big East Central card, there's a list of foundation scholarship eligibilities. Is this list accurate?
Good question, Molly. So it should be as accurate as possible. Of course, there are always some things that slide through or, everybody makes mistakes and there are errors, or when something gets transferred over from our system to Slate, it might kind of mismatch, but it should be pretty accurate.
Okay. All right. And Molly, let us know if you have a follow-up question. You can post it directly to the chat, but I'll go to the second question. This comes from, Molly says, thank you. This comes from Holly. How do we guide students, or who do we guide students to if they have questions for like an incoming freshman or other students as they are working through the application process?
They can go to Big East Central. That's always a good resource for students. If they have a question that is specifically foundation related, they can reach out to me.
Okay. Great, thank you. And Holly, if you have a follow-up question, you can post it to the chat and we'll relay it to Carrie. All right, Holly says, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
So if I were to go in, like I can see that I have a student who's eligible, but they have not applied.
Right.
So if I click on the nominate button, what happens? Do they get an email that says you should apply and it gives them directions, or?
No, If you nominate them, then they are awarded the scholarship as long as they, are double checked and I say, yes, they meet the criteria. Then they receive an email saying you've been awarded the scholarship. Now, I will say, we do have some scholarships that it is required that they apply. It's
That's-
written
yeah.
in the MOA
Yeah.
that, they must complete the application.
Yeah.
So if that is the case and you have someone that you would like to nominate, then you can reach out to them or I can reach out to
Okay.
them and say, hey, you qualify for this scholarship, please apply.
Okay, thank you.
And that's another thing too, if you all do have one that you notice there are no applicants, this past academic year, I worked with Slate and they would send out mass emails to all of the eligible students encouraging them to apply. So we can do that too to try to push it out there. Yes, Becky.
Do you know how many people got nominated last year?
That I
Because
don't-
I think that'd be so cool to just see how different people are using the tool. And then you could be like, hey, colleges, this person nominated this many students. This is a great way for you to spend your money.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's not a huge.
Right,
number,
it's good.
but I do want to say that the preference is to award students that have applied.
Right.
They've gone to the trouble of going through the process and, I think it's best to reward them for that.
Yeah. And we typically kind of advisors, we encourage students to apply when they're familiar with the process, just because it's an easy way sometimes for them to find something that might fit for them when they're not really a traditional scholarship recipient. So I would just echo, especially for anybody that's working with students on advising purposes, like if you think there's a possibility that they're going to qualify for something, or even if you just have like a go-getter that's like, I want to get all these funds, have them apply for it, because sometimes there's times that we can find ways to award them, but a lot of times they really need to do that first step first. So.
Right. And that's the thing too, when you're advising, that's great too, for the students that are maybe within a certain major, but we have scholarships
Right.
that aren't for specific majors, so they're just general scholarships and not for anything. So when they might think they're just applying for nursing scholarships, but when they fill out the foundation application, they're applying for every scholarship available.
And John Brent has his hand up in the Zoom room and is going to come off mute and ask his question.
I just want to make sure that you all can hear me okay? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I'm assuming there's students that will fall at the top of these criteria lists, and when they do, if it's kind of an automated process, I'm assuming that they could be selected and receive multiple scholarships. Now, in the system, and forgive me, I'm completely ignorant of Slate and the scholarship process, is there a way to figure out what scholarships have been awarded to what students, so that way we can somehow find a way to equally distribute these funds or these scholarship monies to other students?
No, there is not. There isn't a way to see that. And I know, and I know that it's such a good attitude to have, is that you want to make sure as many students are impacted as possible, but there's really not a way to do that. I think that sometimes you just have to put your faith and trust out there and just kind of have the mindset that, if there's a student that needs 2 scholarships, it's okay that they got 2 scholarships. Maybe they really needed it. Because again, if someone has gotten enough to where they don't have any more unmet need, then that scholarship's not going to be awarded, and then you would be able to select another student.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Are there any other questions from the Zoom room? I see that Matthew Howell has his hand raised. So Matthew.
Sorry. So Carrie and I have talked a lot about the Department of Government scholarships. This is actually a question about the class scholarships. because I'm also on that committee as well. So I'm on the committee for the Laura Kennemer and for the Lane Wood. And so on Slate, I'm able to get to looking at the eligible students. I'm in the Slate reader. But the issue that the committee had last year, and I think we might have it this year as well, is that not every member of the committee is looking at the same list of students. And we think it's because we're all on different committees. So we have all of the students all jumbled together from the committees that we're on. How can we tell which scholarships the student has actually applied to, so that we're looking at the same group of students rather than a group of students that is not the same for everybody in the committee?
So I think if I'm understanding you correctly, like if you were ready to award the Kennemer Scholarship, you might be seeing students that aren't necessarily meet the criteria for that, or?
Yeah, last year we had, so there's 3 members on the committee for the Lane Wood. And I forget exactly what the differences were. I could look them up, but we weren't all looking at the same names in the Slate reader. And we ultimately were able to figure out, these are names that we all have in common, so we can all review them. But it'd be really useful if we could actually just look at the names that are in the Slate reader and know, okay, these are the ones that are for the Lane Wood, and we need to be restricting our search to these people.
So,
we could also be completely misunderstanding what the problem is.
Okay, so if you are marked as an authorized user for the Lane Wood Scholarship, as an example, when you go into the scholarship portal, you would select Lane Wood and then click applicant, and only the ones that qualify for that are the only ones that should show up. If you all are all definitely not, then let me know, because that's something we need to get with Slate to get figured out. Another thing you can do in the scholarship portal, if one person wants to kind of be the designated person, when you pull up the applicant list, you can export that to Excel. And so you can then just download that list and share it with the rest of the committee.
All right, and just to make sure I'm in the right place, and sorry, my 2-factor authentication just glitched on me. This is on the foundation scholarship, this student success thing. This is the eligible students, select the scholarship, and then search. This is the place I should be to do this?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm not seeing anything right now, but the scholarship isn't actually due. Oh, nope. Hey, the name's just, oh Lord, there's 1,000 of them. Wonderful. Hey, well, at least I've got them. All right.
What you want to do, Matthew, I think you said you clicked on eligible students. You might want to start with the applicant list and click on the applicant.
Applicant list.
Probably won't be quite as many and not as overwhelming.
Okay, yeah, that's 36. That's a much more reasonable. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the Zoom room? All right. I'm not seeing any more questions from Zoom. Anything from those of you in person?
Well, thank you all so much. And if you all do happen to think of any questions or suggestions or anything, I'm always open to help. So please feel free to reach out to me anytime.
You're getting some thank yous in the chat as well. Great. Well, thank you everybody for joining us both in person and on Zoom. We had a great Zoom crowd for you, Carrie. And thanks to Lisa and also to John for bringing us together and sharing the ideas that brought us this session. So we appreciate the good collaboration with Faculty Senate and looking forward to more great sessions with Carrie in the Development Office as well. So thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your day.